Leadership is shifting. We can feel it. There is so much change happening now. And today I wanted to take a few minutes and talk about what I call mindfulness 2.0. And maybe it's even 3.0 at this point. I'm not really sure. But we hear this word all the time, right? Mindfulness, mindful leader, being mindful, feeling mindful. I feel like it's a very ubiquitous term at this point and really saturated, and it's kind of lost what it really means. And I think in the traditional sense, what do you think of when you hear mindful leader, right? I want to cite my friend Mark Thornton, who wrote a book called How to Meditate in a New York Minute a few years ago. And he defines mindfulness as being aware of what is going on inside while noticing what happens on the outside. I think we can all identify with that, right? So knowing what's going on inside and being present for that while we are taking in the outside, usually with our five senses. And it doesn't just mean noticing your gurgling stomach or your tensed up shoulders, your hunched over body over the computer, although that might be true. But it also means noticing what emotions are you feeling, right? And this means being really aware of your emotional state at all times and allowing these emotions to be present with you. This is what the new part about this is, the 3.0, we'll call it. It doesn't mean avoiding them or because you're at work, they don't matter, or forgetting about them or stuffing them under the rug. Really, it means actually feeling. Maybe it might even be unpleasant, uncomfortable, or painful. And I know let's all do this. Just close your eyes with me for a moment. Think of a time in the last 24 hours, being aware of what you've been doing. When was the last time you took a couple minutes to really just be fully present? And it might be right now, right? So think of that time. It might have been listening to your favorite song and hearing the words that make you smile or cry. Maybe it was outside getting the mail and feeling the sun on your face. And, when we have these moments of mindfulness, knowing we can just potentially be with ourselves, new things emerge in that time and space, right? And I think of a time when I went outside on my porch in San Francisco and really just let the moment be there with myself. And then I noticed some sadness creeping in, and I just wanted to cry, and I didn't know why, but I didn't care. I really just allowed that space and feeling sad. And I knew because I was feeling this, it didn't mean anything else other than I was having this emotion pass over me. I didn't feel shameful, and it wasn't like I tried to avoid it, right? And that was because I had created this space. And I do think that's where leadership is going, where we are available to create this space as the leaders in our domains, whatever our industries are, or who we are as leaders and executives, but we allow what is going on to be present so that we can do something about it. And I think this is more and more of what we need in the leadership community, in bigger companies, smaller companies, and everything. So while you might be hearing this term mindful leader, think about it in this new way. I encourage you to kind of think about it where if it actually means not just being present to yourself, but knowing how you feel and really using that as data so that you can make the moves and do different things, make the call you need to make, go with your gut brain, your gut instinct to do something different. But if we lose touch with ourselves, if we aren't taking those times to pause, right? Cue my favorite word, then we sit in that fear maybe, and that dictates our day, right? Because we didn't speak up when we thought we could, or we didn't share and respond when someone maybe had something to say that we didn't necessarily agree with, or was a conflict or things like that. So mindful leaders, I truly believe, are in touch with their emotions, which is not the norm in business or in the corporate world, right? Think about even 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Emotional intelligence didn't even enter our vernacular until really the mid-90s, when Daniel Goleman, who's a guest on our podcast here, he coined this term and brought it to the business world from the economic economist Sullivan and Mayer, who had talked about it in 1990, I believe. So this is all kind of new, I would say. So how can you be a mindful leader? What is it that you need to do to stay relevant now? And this is the coolest part, you guys, because we can learn this. That's the nice thing. We can learn this. And this is the number one skill that recruiters are looking for, that is a leadership trait for the most successful leaders of our time. And there is no mistake. This is not an accident, right? So what does that mean? What can that look like for you if you're in this mindful leader 3.0 space? So I think the first thing is to be aware of what you're feeling in any given moment. And that's really hard, okay? Because we know we are not always present to be that aware. But then the next step of that isn't just to notice it, but it's to allow it to inform you. Maybe there's an action you might take, or a choice you would make if you had otherwise maybe ignored that, you wouldn't have even thought of, right? So if you feel frustrated, let's say something's not going your way, or upset about something, it's not about just forgetting about it and moving on. Although we do need to do that. I'm not saying that's not realistic, but we do need to deal with it, or otherwise it will come back and be around in one shape or form that may or may not likely help us out. So share your thoughts responsibly is my go-to there. What does that mean? It means maybe talking to someone, telling someone, when you said X, I noticed that blah, 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 blah. This wasn't like what I really thought of this project. And I felt frustrated that I had something to share and it actually didn't do it in the moment. I wanted to share it now because it really keeps coming at me to talk about. Responsibility, all that means is you're taking responsibility for your thoughts as you say them. So you're not knee-jerk reacting, being like, how could you do this? What are you thinking? Right? Like that's a little more reactivity. That's not necessarily responsible in that way. And that's it. Just being aware of what you're feeling is the best way to start that. And then allowing that to inform you to make your choices and actions. Then I think what also is really important is speaking with intention as a mindful leader. What does that mean, right? So intention is aliveness with direction. That is the definition from Dr. Bob Wright from the Wright Foundation. And your points will be stronger and you are helping others and yourself be clearer. And when you have that more present experience, knowing here's what I want to do. This is my intention. If you have a meeting, telling yourself before you walk in the door, or maybe click on the video conference, what's my intention for this? How do I want this meeting to go? How do I want to show up? And that can make a world of difference, right? You could check in with how you feel right then and there. You can make it a habit that you have a little post-it on your desk, or maybe in your notebook when you do join others. This is something that you reflect on. Okay, I'm feeling a little nervous. So that must mean I don't know what's going to happen. So I know I need to really just focus on my breathing, stay on track for what I want to be in my intention, and go from there, right? The idea is that when you shift to speak intentionally, you sound so much more succinct and your authority is there. You are present with yourself emotionally as you communicate out to the world what is going on and what you're thinking. And I think a bonus for this, by the way, is when you bring in that awareness with your breath and the body. Maybe you just ask yourself as you breathe, what's my feeling right now? Okay, then you're reorienting and realigning again with what matters. It's such a great thing to do. And maybe that is your intention. I think it all goes hand in hand. So there it is, being mindful, why we need to be mindful leaders in 3.0 version. It's not just about being present, it's about bringing the emotions into the equation so that you can act accordingly. Our emotions are everywhere. We feel thousands of times a day in different ways, but we may or may not notice them because we're either conditioned not to feel that or don't think about it at work. And I think it's time to change that. I think when we bring our whole selves to work and we are allowed to be okay to feel frustrated and voice it in a safe space. That can make a world of difference, right? Then we're starting to build psychological safety in a way that maybe it didn't exist before. And so much more is possible. My book, Pause, that is really the foundation of creating new habits, I would say, touches a lot about this. And it's not just about pausing, doing nothing and being still. It's about intentionally shifting your behavior in these new ways so that you can emerge as a leader in your own right in ways that serve you now. That's what being a mindful leader and being relevant today, personally and professionally, personally and professionally, is all about. I hope you enjoyed this message, and you can tune into me every Tuesday for the latest episode. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you soon. Bye.